It always helps if I turn the microphone on. Let's see if that works now. Hold on, I gotta check. There it is. It always helps if I turn the microphone on. Let's see if that works now. Good morning and welcome to Daylight with Dean. This would be number 307 on March 10th, 2021. I'm so grateful that you're here with me this morning. I'm so grateful to have my new travel coffee mug that holds almost half a carafe of coffee. Gary showed up at the gym yesterday with a stash of these, so I was able to buy one, and so grateful for my Greatness Athletics Fitness Center. And now I have a great travel mug to go with it. Well, let's enjoy this first sip of coffee together this morning. So grateful for that. Wow. So it is about 5:53 a.m., so I got about 20 minutes to tell you the rest of the story. So part 2 of Dean and Leslie's blind date, first date, life-changing date on March 9th, 2021. So I filled into you the details of Darlene Barker and her role as playing Cupid. I filled in for you my dear friend and late hairdresser, Mary Beth Kubrick. For those of you in New Kensington, she would be a cousin of our good buddy Steve. And filled in for you the details of her connection to the story from being the place that I met Darlene, who first introduced me to a girl from West Virginia, verbally, I never met the girl, but then later introduced me to Leslie. So, as I mentioned yesterday, we are at the part of the story where I called Wednesday night. That would have been the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, yeah, the 6th. The 6th of March, called and spoke with her for about 45 minutes. Got our date all set up. So now it's date day. And I have a Argyle sweater I'm going to wear with a white turtleneck underneath. But I don't have a pair of jeans. The Argyle sweater was a gift from a previous girlfriend. But I need a pair of jeans. So I go to Monroeville. I go to Gap and I buy a new pair of blue jeans. They were kind of light blue. They weren't real dark blue, but I bought those. And so I don't think I told you this part of the story. My mother, who has always been my biggest fan, my biggest supporter, my most loving, encouraging person in my entire life, I'm about to leave. I think I'm supposed to pick her up at 6:30. The movie's at 7:30 in Monroeville at the Showcase Cinemas East that we're going to. And so I'm about to leave the house, and my mother says, "Now, Dean, I just don't want you to get your hopes up." She said, "There's no girl in her right mind that's going to want to go out with you a second time because you just bought a pickup truck." So for my mom, growing up on a farm, a pickup truck meant that you were a dirt farmer, meant that you didn't have any class, just a pickup truck was not a very impressive thing in her life. So she said, "You just bought a pickup truck." Well, I just bought my brand new 1991 Toyota 4x4 extended cab, and it was brand new and beautiful. So I just bought it 2 months before. She said, no girl in her right mind is going to want to go out on a second date with someone who picks her up in a pickup truck, who's wearing blue jeans, and who just cut all his hair off. Because my hair was getting thin, so I went to a flat top. And she said, so I just want to prepare you. I'm like, oh, alrighty then, Mom. Thanks for that word of encouragement. So I'd been to New Kent a few times growing up, but, I knew where Eaton Park was. I knew where Arby's was, but I didn't know much beyond that. And so she gave me directions coming into New Kent on Greensburg Road, turning right, where the old drive-in movie theater used to be, just past where McDonald's is now, and coming along Stevenson Boulevard. And she brought me in past Eaton Park on my left-hand side, and came up to the light at the track at Valley High School. I turned left, and then I went to the light at Freeport Road. Turned up the hill, and now I did not grow up in the city. I grew up in the country on my grandfather's on my grandfather's 100-acre farm surrounded by woods. Closest neighbor seemed like a quarter-mile away. So the whole city life thing was brand new to me. So I don't quite know what, how, but I'm just driving, and I don't know. So I come up a mile up the hill. Her parents' street that they raised Leslie on from 13 years old on. She lived on a street in New Kent on the right-hand side, and I saw the sign, and I'm like, well, she's not pulling my leg. She gave me the street name, turned down, pulled down in front of their house, got out, and so was looking forward to meeting her at the door, like opening the door, and there she is. And knocked on the door, rang the doorbell, I don't remember what, and Leslie's mom answered. And what's funny is Leslie's mom was the age that Leslie is today. So I thought that was that was fun to note. So I got to meet Mrs. Hetrick, and they invited me in. Leslie was nowhere to be found, and then got to meet Doug Hetrick, and we were talking and in the entrance to their living room. So they invited me into their living room, and we were talking about family somehow, and Doug went across the room to the bookshelf to get the Hetrick family book from, I don't know if it's from Germany or Ireland, or no, it wasn't Ireland. It was some book about their family history and their shield and all that. He wanted to show it to me, so got to see that, and I was over talking to him, and he was showing it to me, and then I heard her traipsing down the steps, and I'm like, oh, this is it. And she rounded the corner, and I was like, wow. She had the most beautiful long brown hair. She had the cutest outfit on. She was just smiling, and I'm like, wow. So we we're letting them know we're going to a movie in Monroeville, and then to get something to eat. And so we said goodbye to her parents. We got in the car. We're driving up Coxcomb Hill to go the back way to the Monroeville Mall. And I am so nervous. I was so nervous. And so I finally just said, do you do this a lot? And she said, do what? I said, go on blind dates. And she said, no, it's my first. And I said, well, it's my first too. So that took the pressure off. So I don't know, I'm sure none of you will remember, but in March of 1991, there was all this buzz about this new thriller kind of movie that was out, that was filmed in Pittsburgh, and I thought it would be a good idea if we went and saw that movie. And so on our first date, on our blind date, I took her to go see the movie Silence of the Lambs. we got to the movie theater and got our seats, and the theater was in one of the big theaters, and it was packed. And she's looking all around. She's like taking it all in, and she's just like, I'm like, man, I like this girl. So then the movie was great. It was riveting. She did not close her eyes or put her hands in her face in her hands. I mean, she engaged in the movie. And I'm like, we got out and walked into the car and talked about the movie, and she said she liked it. And I'm like, this has to be the girl for me. I mean, what kind of girl? It's just like, wow, I love this. So then for me, back in 1991, 30 years ago, the finest dining there was, the most impressive place to take a girl was TGI Fridays. And so we were in Monroeville, and I said, well, let's go to TGI Fridays. So we got there, and it was probably 9:30 by now. And the lobby is packed. There are people everywhere. So I go and I give them our name and party of two, and give them our name. And they said, okay, it'll be about 45 minutes. And I'm like, well, we'll have some nice time to visit in the crowded waiting area at TGI Fridays. So we're waiting, waiting less than 5 minutes. And they come on the microphone and they say, Brown, party of two, last call for Brown, party of two. And I looked at Leslie, I said, do you want to be the Brown party? And she said, yes. So we went up to I'm sure it wasn't the maitre d', went up to the hostess and said, Brown? And they said, yes. And so they went and took us to our seat. And we... halfway through our meal, we hear, Ward, party of two, last call for Ward, party of two. So we sat there, and now this was the serious business. This is when I wanted to hear the story. I wanted to get to know her. I wanted to find all this out. How could she have gotten through college and not been married, or if somebody fall in love with her, had to explain how that happened to me, because I just had given up on ever meeting anybody after college. And so then I just, we sat there, and I was done messing around. I didn't want to date just to have fun. I wanted to date somebody that, was marriage material. And so Leslie told her that I gave her the Inquisition. I asked her so many questions about her family, about her brothers, if they loved God, about church, about her values. She said it was like being on an interview. And I don't remember it quite that way, but I know that I do like to learn about people through asking questions and listening. And so when it came time to order, I don't remember what we ordered as far as the food, but I remember for an appetizer, I ordered brie cheese because I'd discovered brie cheese and from the girl I was dating in college. And I thought, well, she was a little cultured that way. And so I'm like, oh, this will make a good impression. So I ordered the brie cheese. And then I had Trident gum to make sure I had fresh breath. And I took my gum and I put it out on the paper placemat. And so we're talking, and I put it on the placemat kind of subtly. And so she's not eating the brie cheese. We're actually not eating that much anyways. It was late, and we just were both kind of nervous. So things went well. I was sitting like this most of the time, leaning forward, engaging, talking, and it was time to go. And I pulled back, and my arm was stuck to my paper placemat because I had my arm in the gum while I was sitting there. And I had the Argyle long sweater on, and so I now have chewed gum in my sweater. It's like, wow. So being in Monroeville, we're about 10 miles from where I grew up. And so I said, well, can I show you where I grew up? And she said, sure. So we drove to Delmont, drove her up my parents' place and drove her all around, drove her past my uncles, my cousins, drove her all the way to the top of the hill. And on the top of the hill was my grandfather's tomato farms, where he farmed tomatoes in the 30s and 40s and into the 50s. And that is where I kissed my Leslie for the first time. We were in the car, and I looked at her, and I'm like, I'd really like to kiss you. And like, pooh, there she was, and that was great. So that was fun. And now it's like midnight, and I'm getting nervous because I don't want to make a bad impression on her parents. I'm like, I have to get you home. And she goes, no, it's okay. And I'm like, no, I have to get you home. So we left, drove the half hour, got to her house a little before 12:30, like 12:28, something like that. And so I walked her up to the front door and I gave her a hug. I might have kissed her again. I don't remember that part quite clearly like I did the first kiss. And then we drove home. And so that was our first date. I knew I was very impressed with her, really surprised that it was so, it's just Leslie. What's not to enjoy, you know? And so I was a little once bitten, twice shy, and just wasn't sure where things were going to go. I had a trip to my uncle's planned for a week, so I went down there, came back, and we continued talking and continued dating, and by the beginning of the summer, felt that things were moving in this direction, and I felt really terrified. Like, I was just scared to death about marriage, and I don't know. And so we decided the best thing we did was decided for the summer, let's just date. Let's not think about it. Let's not talk about it. Let's not put that pressure on us. But by the end of the summer, I knew, she knew. Actually, she knew that night. I want to take a picture of this and post it on Facebook, but this is her schedule kind of journal book that she kept. And on March 9th, it says, I met the man I will marry, Leslie and Dean Ward. And she circled it in a heart. And this was from 1991, March 9th. And so she knew, although I knew, but I was, like I said, I'd been broken up with and not had the last 3 relationships I was in all ended, and I was just like, I don't want to get hurt again. So, but by the end of the summer, we knew. I had a friend in college that his dad was a diamond broker. He lived out in the St. Louis area, so I was going to see family out there and to dive for golf balls at a course out there. And bought a diamond from my friend's dad and bought the band and setting for it. And it came on, I believe, Tuesday night. Let me see, I'll tell you exactly when it was. Tuesday night, November, I think it was the 12th, maybe? Yes. Tuesday night, November 12th. The thing says engaged, 8:30 p.m., Mount Washington, snow. And got engaged November 12th and then married the following April 17th on Good Friday, Easter weekend. And so we're 29 years married in April. We're 30 years met yesterday. So thank you for letting me share that story with you. And Thank you for being part of my life, part of my journey. And yesterday, she rode with me to run an errand in my pickup truck, which is kind of my work beater kind of work truck. I had to pick up some bales of straw for the grass we're planting at the church today. And she made some comments on that trip that just had me in stitches on our 30-year anniversary. Can't wait to share those with you tomorrow. Yesterday, when I got to the gym late, he already had the other two people doing their exercises. He said, "Did daylight run long today?" And I said, "Yes, it did." Was telling the story about how we met, and I ran long. I had to end it, and I had to give part 2 this morning. So that's why you got a 2-parter. So thank you so much for being on this journey with me, for letting me share my life with you. And the most significant part of my life in the past 30 years was meeting the amazing Leslie Hetrick, and so grateful. Well, guys, I want to go ahead and pray and get on to the gym. It is 6:13 a.m., and I don't want to be late today. It's my favorite day at the gym, upper body day, and can't wait to get there. So let's pray, and we'll get moving. Father, I just thank you so much for your faithfulness, even when I didn't believe you would be. I just hoped just a little. And I thank you that hope is one of those things that helps us get out of bed in the morning, that helps us move through our situation and circumstances. I thank you so much for the gift of hope. And I pray, Lord, for anyone here that is struggling, that doesn't have hope, that you would give them hope today, and that their hope would be realized. I pray, Lord, that you would give them peace and life and joy, that your goodness would be on full display, and your faithfulness would have a track record in their life that they could look to and say, God will come through for me again, not in my plans, but with his plans, which are always better. I just ask, Lord, that you would watch over us. Thank you for your love, your faithfulness, your goodness. Thank you for the joy and life available in and through you as we journey with your Spirit. We can't wait to see all that you have in store for us today. In Jesus' name, amen. One of the, just going to give a little PS here at the end. One of the reasons I live with significant anticipation every day is because I know that God can do life-changing things in a moment. And you may not see them as life-changing in that moment, but when you look back at them, you're like, wow, that's when it all changed. And I'm so grateful for those moments in my life. And my prayer for you and my prayer for me is that we won't miss them, that we won't see them in the rearview mirror, but that we'll live with such anticipation every day that we face, that we're like, God, what do you have for me today? I can't wait to see what you're up to. So, God bless you, and look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.